Welcome to From Destination to Distributed Media. That's what I'm going to talk about today. I only have 20 minutes and I have 20 slides if they work, so I'm going to jump right into it and talk you through how we look at this. These are basically the things I'm going to talk you through, the macro trends, kind of what it means, and then implications for the advertising industry as we see it, or opportunities. The macro trends, what's driving us from a publishing perspective is really these things, and I think it's the same things for most digital players today. Mobile, video, global, and social. Excuse me. Mobile, sorry. Sorry, yeah. That's a tough one. Mobile is really becoming the first screen. And as you can see, now it's surpassed desktop. And for publishers, that is obviously a huge transformational shift. Both how fast it has happened and also, of course, the size of it. The reason why it's so important is, of course, as we all know, desktop is right now at this point in time from an advertising perspective better monetized. You have better CPMs. You have better click-throughs. You have more impressions on the desktop. So basically, what this means for the publishing industry is that not only have we seen a huge shift to mobile, we already had a shift from print to desktop, where a lot of traditional publishers are still struggling with this shift. Now we have a transformational shift that is happening almost as fast and has the same kind of transformational changes to our business. As an example, 2 years ago, we had our CPMs on mobile was a quarter of what they were on desktop. This year, they're half, so at least we're closing the gap. But I think it's important you understand kind of what's happening here from an audience perspective, but also what it means for the publishers. At the same time, video is rapidly increasing in terms of output, in terms of the size of the consumption. In the US, a third of what the young people now do when they log onto the internet is watching online video. So obviously, we again, as a publisher and also advertisers, need to think about what does this mean in terms of formats, in terms of how we engage our audience, what is the type of content we need to serve up, and what are the formats. Another thing that is, again, I talked about the shift from desktop to mobile. This shift is almost as huge or even bigger if you kind of look at kind of the amount of hours that are uploaded every hour to YouTube of video. It's now at 300, and of course it's driven a lot by the younger audience, but those are also the consumers that we want to engage with and we want to advertise to. Social again, social from a publisher perspective is becoming the new big traffic source, is becoming the new black, meaning that you really need to understand social media, you need to understand the implications for your business so your content can be shared across these different networks. Social media, as you can see here, social media accounts for 1 in 4 minutes spent online now. It's the latest. And obviously, you have a number of different players that have significant size now when it comes to, this is US numbers, when it comes to audience in the US. The reason why social is important, I talked about the importance of mobile. The reason why social is important, because social is actually driving on desktop. As you can see it, social is driving a lot of traffic on desktop. But the thing is, as we saw the shift is shifting to mobile, social is driving even more traffic on the mobile. So if you don't understand social and you don't understand how to get your things embedded across these social networks, you're going to find it very difficult to grow your audience on your mobile platform. Another thing that we as a US company have to think about, and we have done over the last 3-4 years since the acquisition by IAA, is that only 4% of the internet population is in the US. The rest is actually outside, and that is actually where the growth is. So growth is coming rapidly. We have launched 14 editions to kind of try to capture this, 14 international editions to try to capture where we are seeing the growth is coming. But at the same time, As I said, mobile is important, and mobile is increasing with 1 billion over the next 4 years in terms of users. So these are some of the macro trends that is basically driving and changing the business that we live in, but in many ways the business that we all live in. What it means in terms of how people are consuming content, what does it mean in terms of how we respond to it. We basically look at it in 2 different ways. We look at it in what we call virtual distributions, where on one end you have audiences seeking out content, and another end you have content travels to where audiences are. So this is really the approach from destination to distribution. At the same time, you have the physical distribution. You have the single centralized coverage versus having a multi-language, multi-market approach to things. If you look at the younger demographics, what's quite interesting is that more than 51% of them are now getting their content, and that also means their advertising, distributed. What does it mean? It basically means that if I looked at HuffPost 4 years ago, 80% of the traffic we got came through our front page, came to the home page. So people were using search or bookmarks to come to our site, and obviously we were able to create user journeys on the back of that, driving them through our site, create great engagement. What we're seeing now when things are much more distributed is that it's basically the reverse. We have now only 20-30% of our traffic is coming directly to our destination. The rest is happening distributed. So it basically goes back to what I talked about before. If we don't understand how you then distribute your content to social media platforms and other sites, then you're not going to capture an audience. So it's basically reversing the business that we've been in for a long time. And of course, at the same time, if we understand how to get it right, it also increases our potential audience. What you might have seen over the last couple of weeks is that a lot of players in this space, Facebook as one, but also Snapchat, has created new ecosystems where they want people to publish content. And I'm going to come back to that in a second. But again, it's quite interesting to see that when you look at these social networks, you basically have the size of them here and then how much of their traffic is mobile. We all know that Facebook over the last couple of years has gone more and more mobile, but they've also found a way to monetize it. What's quite interesting, Snapchat, which of course has a younger demographic, is 100% mobile. There's nothing on the desktop. So this is obviously, again, the way that it's evolving. Another thing that is happening is that obviously we all know Facebook. Facebook is huge, but what I'm not so sure that everyone is aware of is the importance of the next wave, which is really the instant messaging platforms. The instant messaging platforms basically has the opportunity to become the portals that we had in the 90s. AOL was a portal, Yahoo was a portal. These guys are basically, if we see what is happening in China with WeChat. China is, in China, basically WeChat is not just an instant messaging platform, it's a whole ecosystem. It's a place where you can do commerce, it's a place where people are exchanging content, stories, sharing things. So it already is becoming a platform in Asia. And obviously the latest we've seen with Snapchat is that Snapchat has launched Snapchat Discover, which is basically a platform where they want to drive content from. So there's a whole new breed of players that are growing up that have similar characteristics as the social media networks, but are quite different. Snapchat Discover, as I just mentioned. Another thing that I also just mentioned is that just last week, Facebook launched instant articles. Basically means that Facebook would like publishers to publish directly on their platform. Again, something that publishers obviously need to think about because suddenly your brand is going to be potentially less important unless you're very good at packaging and making sure it shows up on Facebook's platform in an interesting way. But this is Facebook's new way of making a more engaging platform on Facebook and making the traffic stay on Facebook. Right now offering monetization, but obviously time will tell kind of what this model will look like for publishers. But again, something that again pushes us towards a distributed approach. Obviously, Facebook is right now driving between 20 and 25% of our traffic. So obviously it's difficult to tell them that we're not going to do this. So we're obviously engaging in conversations to find ways of creating a model that works for Facebook and for HuffPost. Another thing that obviously is happening as this is going on is that mobile needs to change. The way you think about mobile needs to change. The mobile experiences right now are not always great, and especially when they become more social driven, you need to think much more about how you make automized content sharing. You need to think much more about how you use technology to drive relevant articles, because one of the things social is doing is that it allows people to click on an article and you might not know what comes after that article. You need to be better at predicting, just like Amazon can predict what books you like, and they get better and better at it. We need to do the same with content to keep them in the experience, to have them read more articles, to spend more time, to be able to expose them to more advertising if you're an advertiser. Video is obviously something that, again, I think when we talk about formats that really works well on the mobile, we have in-stream formats, we have video formats. I have to say, I'm not a big fan of the banners. The banners are in many ways annoying to the audience, so we need to find new formats to really capture and extract value out of these, out of the mobile experience. Physical distribution, again, we obviously believe that this is important. We also believe that it adds value to a brand. The way we do it is, we obviously have, as I said, 14 editions around the world. And we've decided that we wanted to do it, be global but local at the same time. So we basically can take, when we have things that are happening on a local level, we can amplify them and share them across our global platform. Just like advertising campaigns in many ways needs to be global in nature when it's a global brand. Citizen journalism is another thing that also is becoming increasingly important. And for a long time, brands and advertisers have thought about, how do we work around this user-generated content? How do we leverage it? How do we use it? And as publishers, obviously, this is also something that we need to think about. There's a lot of great examples out there with, you have Medium on the blog content side, Blog or WordPress, that is basically where it started. This is something that we've always tapped into. We have more than 100,000 bloggers on our platform, and we think it's something that adds value to the experience you get on HuffPost. The same is pretty much happening on the photo side. And the latest, of course, and from my perspective, very, very interesting thing is, obviously, we've seen Meerkat, we've seen Periscope with Twitter, that pretty much empowers people to live stream experiences. If I had my phone here, I could live stream this experience and share it with whoever wanted to see it out there. It would be instantly up there, it would be live, you're transmitting what goes on, and obviously, as we think about how we scale and build global businesses and how we can tap into this is one of the areas that is very interesting. Not only for us as a publisher, but I also think it becomes very, very interesting for advertisers to see how they can bring things to life without us having to send people to every places on the earth to cover things, because obviously we can't do that, it's too expensive. So finding ways to tap into this citizen journalism way, and also for brands to tap into how they can use Periscope, I'm finding very, very interesting. What are some of the implications for the advertising industry? Of course, there is some of the things that are happening is that the time spent on site is going down because when people are not coming direct anymore, when they're coming via social or search, they're not as engaged. So that's a huge thing that publishers have to spend time on, and obviously it also becomes important from an advertiser perspective because it means that there are less ads that you can expose them to when they're on the site. It also means reduced screen real estate. So it basically means that ad products that appear in line don't require additional space, but things that are not in line, obviously you have a problem with that. So the whole discussion about ad units needing to be in line is obviously becoming more and more relevant. Also, as I mentioned before, the reduced monetization value. So these are some of the challenges. At the same time, there are some huge opportunities here for advertisers. I think, because if we go back a second, if we look at the shift from desktop to mobile, over time, I actually do think that we will close this gap, because I do think if you think about a video ad on a mobile, it's actually it's a better experience than a video ad on a desktop, because when you have a video ad on the desktop and you click on it, you still have a lot of other things go on. When you click on a video ad on a mobile, you have the full attention of the reader, because it opens up, it basically takes the whole screen. So that, for me, is actually a more premium experience. So I'm sure as we're starting to get people to understand the value of the mobile inventory, and as we're starting to get them and also scale that audience, which you can see we are, because mobile is now bigger than desktop, then I'm sure there's going to be some huge and interesting opportunities, and CPMs will go up. So for first movers, I would get my hands on some more mobile inventory while it's cheap. Custom content, I think, is an area that is very important as publishers evolve, and as we go down this line, as you were seeing, people were less engaged. We need to find better formats that obviously increases brand awareness. We needed to find things that are engaging people better, because otherwise we are not going to be able to monetize our audience the best possible way. And custom content is one way of doing that. We've all seen native advertising, but that's really turning into branded content. And branded content, I think, really becomes a 24/7 strategy. It's much more committed approach to engaging with an audience. It's much more interesting also if you do it right, but the commitment and the money is also huge if you want to be on 24/7. But working with publishers in creating those programs, creating the amount of content that needs to be done in order to create these kind of content engagement experiences, I think is a very big opportunity. It's very interesting. We're doing a lot of things in this space. We just announced end of last year a partnership with Leo Burnett, where we're doing strategically, we're going to brands and basically creating strategic solutions that tie into what they do above the line. We tie that into kind of what we can do with bringing a conversation alive with content online. The other part that I think is going to grow, obviously, as I showed you in the macro trends, video is growing, and that obviously that gives us a much larger video inventory, and the great thing with that is it's much more engaging, and the good thing for the publisher is also the CPMs are more interesting. So again, if we have less inventory, obviously I want more inventory that is engaging and that is driving better CPMs. So again, what you will see in the coming time as we're going through this cycle, we're moving to more premium formats on the side because we want to create we as publishers want to create great experiences, and we want to make sure that the audience we are driving to you are more engaged audiences. Custom content and video monetization, just an example and kind of why this is important and interesting is, of course, as I said, reserved video or premium video, the highest unit we can sell right now. So obviously, we want to make sure that we have quality video content on our site so we can drive those things. And custom built content, the same thing, driving much better CPMs, much more interesting for us as a publisher and for our audience. It's a much better experience. Desktop display, still up there, and reserved still there. But the thing that is happening to this side of the equation is that a lot of this is obviously going to go into programmatic. And as it goes into programmatic, the prices will go down, and we will focus on the more custom things, because at the end of the day, we want to sell as much as this as possible, because that is the premium experience for our audience. That's really it for me. I have 40 seconds left, so I did it in time. Thank you, guys.